Joe O'Brien.
I'm in a box. Get me out of this crazy box. Hello. Welcome to Glass Cannon Radio. I'm Jared Logan. This is Joe O'Brien.
Hey, what's up, everybody?
This is the show where you put us in our place about the nerd topics of the day. Joe, how are you, pal?
I'm doing fantastic, buddy. I'm doing great, man. We got a lot to talk about today. There's new stuff hitting the bookshelves in the RPG space. I'm excited to talk about it. There's new TV shows coming or already out. I mean, lots to discuss in the nerd world, and I'm looking forward to getting into it.
Yeah, and we want to hear your point of view, and then I might roast you.
Might.
I might not.
Do you
sometimes people are way smarter than I am, for sure.
That is 100% true. But not everybody is as good at roasting as you are. And so, it's sometimes it's hard to give it back.
Not everybody has the deep-seated insecurity that I have.
That is it's a unique and
you have to have a really bad lacking void in your heart and be really insecure and defensive in order to master roastery the way I have.
Now, I know that comedians are by and large, you're friends. You have several friends, obviously, that are comedians. You operate in this space. This is a space you like to work in. And I think that this is a safe space here where we can talk as friends among our listeners and kind of get to know you a little bit better. Do you like comedians in general? Do you enjoy hanging out with them in general? Okay, great. Because I do too, but I was curious.
I do very much. I like, stand-up comedy or comedy in general is a gigantic category. So, of course, there are people whom I don't like. And, of course, there are comedians whom I don't think are funny or good. Some of whom are quite famous.
I bet.
A friend of mine who's a very successful comedian who's very funny the other day was saying, man, there are so many like really bad comedians, And I was like, no, there are so many bad famous comedians. There are tons of excellent, incredible, hilarious comedians you've never heard of, Only the comedy nerds really get in and find these people. So do a little digging, and maybe I think we should do a
segment on this show at some point where you just give us a couple names of people to check out.
Right.
That people we might not have heard of that are really funny, that we got to do a little digging to find, but that are really funny.
It's definitely a type of nerdery is comedy nerdery. And Absolutely. I'd be happy to do that. I wonder if the names I see, so that's what's so weird about it is like someone whom I think of as famous, someone, my friend who like lives in Vermont would be like, never heard of them. I've never heard of that person. I'll be like, but they're famous. And they'd be like, not to me. They're not.
Not to me.
They're famous in your neighborhood of Los Angeles. And I'm like, oh, okay. So it's a really weird thing. I'm definitely in a bubble by being part of it in some way,
Yeah. Makes sense. Yeah. Makes sense. But I'm excited to see everybody out here hanging with us today. Got plenty of people in Discord chomping at the bit. People on
Thanks
Twitch.
Thanks for coming to hang out, guys.
For real. We love you guys. It's awesome.
We love talking to you guys. That's truly sincere. I know that everything I say sounds sarcastic. Listen, if you want to call in and get to be part of the conversation, you just need to be a subscriber to the Glass Cannon and then get on the Discord stage, raise your hand, and we're going to get you in. We're going to take some of those calls, let you weigh in on the topic at hand. If you're not already a subscriber, you can do that in 3 shakes of a lamb's tail by going to jointhenaish.com and becoming a subscriber. You can do it quick enough that you could be on the show today if there's something you really want to say about, our incredible topics.
Yeah, what a light-up today, dude.
And let's talk about that a little bit. We've got the new NPC core for Pathfinder Remastered 2nd Edition has rules on relationships. So we're going to talk about dungeon love. We're going to talk about some dungeon love. And
I also am going to expand upon some other interesting things in this new NPC core book beyond just romance. But I think that definitely jumps out at you. Relationship mechanics is really, really
relationship
fun.
Mechanics. And honestly, like beyond Pathfinder, I know it's hard to think outside of Pathfinder, but beyond Pathfinder, anything about when relationships have sprung up in your games, I think would be great grist for that conversation.
Absolutely.
Okay, then we're going to talk about there is a new Daredevil television series, Daredevil Born Again on Disney Plus. I've watched. I'm also a huge Daredevil fan from the comics. If you've read the comics, if you've seen the show, even the old Netflix show, come and talk to us about it. Talk to us about what you like or don't like about the character, what you like or don't like about the show. Then, in honor of St. Patrick's Day, we're going to get into...
buddy. Right around the corner.
Say Faith in Bigorra. Top of the morning to you.
Top of the morning to you, Jared.
Oh, I won't even do a brogue because I'll suck at it. So we're going to talk about creatures from Irish-ish mythology, because I actually found the leprechaun is not that integrated into Irish mythology. It feels like more of a greeting card creation, but we're going to talk about leprechauns in Pathfinder, and if we have time, maybe some other things from Irish folklore. The new The Last of Us Season 2 trailer has dropped. We watched. I hope you watched. If you haven't, go watch it now. It's like 2 minutes long. And we're going to talk about The Last of Us and our expectations for the second season. And then finally, I have a little nerd travel log for you. I did some traveling over the weekend and hit some nerdy spots. So we'll get into that.
Awesome.
When we get there. But okay, yeah, please subscribe, hop on the Discord. You can do it for free for 30 days with GCN30. That's the code, right, Joe?
Yep, GCN30 will get you 30 free days to try it out. Check out everything that's on there.
Yeah, and why don't we get right into it so we can start taking calls in a minute. I just want to talk about this new NPC core. First of all, it's a beautiful book. I think Paizo always does beautiful books.
Yeah, they do great work, man. I mean, we've known this for years. It's not news. It's why we play the game. We love it so much. But they continue to impress.
I haven't really known it for that long. I haven't known it that long. You know, I played some Pathfinder 1E, maybe over 10 years ago. And then I sort of forgot about Pathfinder until I joined the Glass Cannon. And now I'm like, holy shit, are these beautiful books with actual useful rules in them. So I really do love the Paizo brand. And this is first and foremost a commercial for them.
First and foremost, Paizo Incorporated, a division of Lockheed Martin.
They are, yes, Paizo Incorporated, a division of Lockheed Martin. So the book, though, if you go to the back, has rules on, what are they calling it? Relationships and advancement. So part of this section in the back, it starts on page 226 of the new NPC core, is about advancing NPCs, which is very important. But I really wanted to talk about the relationship part. So first of all, there is what is called a connection subsystem. And Paizo loves its subsystems. You know, the leadership subsystem.
Yes.
The Hexploration is its own special subsystem. So now there is a subsystem for relationships, and they make it clear that it's not just romantic relationships. Could also be a business partnership, a friendship, a mentorship. It could be any of those things. And they've given you a tier system that shows you from the highest tier to the lowest tier. So at the highest tier, you are bonded. That is maybe you're married. You're bonded for life. In the middle, you're
married. I was like, this is obviously married, but they did. Well, no, not obviously married. It's not just spouses. Oh, it is. It includes sworn siblings, spouses, and queer platonic partners. So, someone who has committed their life together. Doesn't have to be romantic, but it can certainly imply financially or you live in the same space or whatever. Yeah.
We have bonded our lives together.
Yeah.
I won't go through every tier. In the middle there's just acquainted, you've met this person.
Yeah.
And then at the below, you can sink down into the lower tiers where you are avoided, despised, or the connection is even vindictive to you.
I love it.
You basically go up or down the connection tier system by using tokens. Those are minor, moderate, or major tokens. And you can think of them as gifts, but they don't have to be physical things. They could be like a minor token is a small act, such as a bouquet of flowers from a nearby shop. A moderate token is doing a favor that includes overcoming a moderate encounter, for example, or spending a week of downtime with the person. And then a major token is a taxing request, like fulfilling a request that requires multiple encounters, spending a month of downtime with the person, and then also to destroy the relationship, to bring it down into those like despised and vindictive tiers. You can use insults. Yeah. Minor insults, moderate insults, and major insults. I think from the context clues, you guys can kind of read into what that might mean. What I was going to ask you, Joe, relationships in games, do we need rules for this? We know Paizo's going to make them, but do we need the rules?
I think we do. I think that it is a really important thing to offer gamers, because I think now there's an important point here. All right, so there's two layers of which I'll attack this. One is, do we need rules for relationships, meaning actually charting the connection between relationships? I mean, overall, do we need any of this? I mean, we're just playing make-believe. It's a guideline. And I think it's important for a guideline. It'll help GMs to track a little bit better using a shared language with their players what status different relationships are at, which obviously you can just look at it as like a tool for romance. But that's not all it is. It is definitely a tool that it could help you to get a significant relationship with a person who you are trying to exploit, right? Or a person you're trying to break into somewhere and you're trying to make a friend on the inside. Like, there's a lot of interesting mechanics that could go into that I enjoy the opportunity to take that out of roleplay, because sometimes, or to have the option to take it out of roleplay, because sometimes I'm not as clever as to how exactly to befriend somebody on the inside of a bank, right? In order to whatever. And the GM might not agree that my strategy works at all or whatever. At least this way we can work on through a system of die rolls or intentions, where you can say, my intention is to create a relationship with this person. They go, okay, well, how would you go about doing that? The GM can decide. That would be that requires a roll, that requires role play, whatever. That's one angle. Real quick, the other angle is something that we haven't mentioned, which is a sidebar on the following page that I think is important to talk about.
This is super important. Yeah.
Which is, they do Paizo always does a great job of this for safety at gaming tables and stuff like that. And so what they lay out is in this sidebar, the topic is content safety and in-game relationships. And as it goes into consent, safety, and in-game relationships. And really it starts to talk about bleed and boundaries. Bleed meaning... And this is something that we could do a whole show on. And I would love for callers to call in and talk about.
I want to say, I've never seen this discussion of bleed in a game before. Maybe it has been in some other game. I haven't heard this term or seen this discussed inside of a game text before. And man, it really turned a light on for me and made me go, yep, that's something that definitely happens in games.
Yeah, so just to explain to people that might not know either, because I didn't know either. I had never used that term, and I think it's a great term. The term that they uses bleed, and it means when emotional things that are affecting the characters bleed through into the actual players. So if your two characters are flirting in game, is that actually a vehicle for you to be flirting with another player at the table? Which is perfectly fine if both people are into that. That's what they want to do. Are two characters dating in the game and the players are dating in real life? And then on the other side of that coin, are two characters that are getting into PvP, is that dangerously crossing into bleeding, into making friends fight with each other or argue with each other?
I think this happens. I think that this
Absolutely
happens.
it
I've
happens.
seen it happen in so many games. It's happened to me. Someone insults my character and I get annoyed.
Yeah.
And I really believe the person does that in good faith. Their character was just insulting my character, but it makes me mad. So this happens. And so these safety guidelines that they lay out here are so important. Some games don't just do a side box. This is a very good side box, a very good inset side box here. But, they say that it's all about check-ins and it's all about kind of communicating, which I think is true. You have to step out of the game for a minute and be like, very obviously, even if you think it's going to kill the mood, fuck the mood. You have to go, let's stop for a second. Are you okay with this happening? Does this seem like fun to you? And if the person says yes and gives clear consent, then by all means, have your half work and your gnome engage in full intercourse.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's the other aspect of this and I'm going to keep pushing this. Like, yes, ultimately, what does everybody think when they look at this? They think about romance. They think about love. They think about, those kind of relationships. But it's important that not until I read this section did I see how well they laid out a groundwork that works just as well for hatred or enemies or, trying to destroy someone, right? Like those, it's important if it's NPCs that you're tracking it correctly and that everybody's comfortable with what's happening, and vice versa. If you're tracking it between PCs, that you are, just being careful and checking in with people and all that kind of stuff, because that bleed is, look, I'll be honest, in general, a lot of these sort of these aspects of the game have not really concerned me very much. I've felt that my gaming groups have been fairly safe without having to talk about it. We haven't needed a lot of calibrations. We haven't had to say, are you okay with this? Are you okay with that? We can kind of feel each other out and get it, but I also play with close friends. Yeah. But even playing with close friends, as I'm reading the bleed section, I'm like, I would be lying to myself if I said this didn't happen to me.
It happens all the time.
And that I wasn't uncomfortable at times with things that were happening, but I never said anything to anybody because I didn't want to make it a big deal. And it wasn't a big deal, but it just I had to find a way to work it out myself. This is nice because it makes it a team effort to work it out.
Yes. Joe, you're of a certain age, and we were told not to talk about our feelings.
Yes.
But Gen Z's opening that up, baby. And now we're going to have that discussion at the table, and that's a good thing. I would like to go back for a second. So while I want to say first and foremost that the safety rules are integral, incredible, and I'm so glad we've reached a place where we're communicating like that. My thing I want to go back to is devil's advocate. I don't know if we need all of these relationship rules. Shouldn't part of a role-playing game be, okay, yes, I've mastered how to get maximal damage from my weapon in a melee combat. Now it's time for me to come over here and practice a different skill, which is gauging relationships with people, acting, improvising. And some people will go, well, I'm not good at that. Well, I'm not good at goddamn maximizing my character, but I figure out how to do that. These games, they should be fun. They should just be fun, but they should also, let you stretch yourself a little bit. So I think that coming up with this very tiered, very stratified relationship system, to me, it's like, why not? Let's just freeform it. Why don't we learn together how to, get closer with an NPC? It might not involve just giving them a token, right? There might be something very specific that motivates this NPC. Maybe this NPC likes to be insulted. No judge. I'm not kink shaming. I'm just saying, I find now if the AP in question, because by the way, we're playing Pathfinder, so we're playing APs. If the AP in question brings this relationship system in the way that, for example, Quest for the Frozen Flame brings in the leadership system, then by all means, if it's part of like the whole system of that campaign, yeah, let's do it. But I really feel like we need the check-ins, we need the communication, we need the consent, but I don't think we need different tiers of relationships and tokens that increase or decrease the tier. That's my devil's advocate. Should we take some calls?
Yeah, let's take some calls. I'm on the opposite side of you on that. I think that it's a great tool to have because you just basically, it is a tool in your toolbox. You don't have to use it, but it's there if you need it. And like I said, this goes beyond romance and can be a good way to track really fun, engaging mechanics with relationships that are required to, as part of a mission or something like that, to gamify it a bit. And I think some people really enjoy gamifying things. So I think it's a great thing to have and to take out of role play. Let's see where people stand on it. Let's talk to Curdy Bird. We got plenty of people looking to hop on. I'd love to see what Curdy Bird has to say. Curdy,
hi, Curdy Bird.
Man, struggling.
Classic GCR move.
Classic GCR move. That's all right. Curdy Bird will come back and we'll get him on there. What about Professor Jester? Professor Jester, is your microphone working? Are you ready to rock?
Hello.
Oh, Professor.
Hey.
Thank you for joining.
We got you, Prof.
Fantastic.
All right, buddy. Thoughts on NPC relationship systems?
Do we need it, Professor?
Well, I think I'm with Jared on this one, and it kind of touches on like the reason why I don't like relationships in video games is that it comes down to, oh, you give them enough items and then bam, great, good to go. And that's, I much prefer the getting to do the improv, doing the role play, and that's the role playing part of the game. I do understand.
Yeah. If you think a relationship is giving someone a number of items, then you're sorely mistaken, or you are my wife, who never says exactly I love you, but is always like, I got you those pens you like.
Also, I think that it's important. I am going to establish here, because I don't want this argument to get too out of hand and start getting weighed against me. That's not really acceptable to me. And so let's clarify some definitions here.
Let the professor talk.
Professor, shut it. I got something. Well, we have to agree to a certain set of terms here. And one of the terms we have to agree on is token. A lot of people see that word and they think of it as a physical object. That is not what the word token means. It's a good catch-all that could be anything from a physical thing, a gift, to a something you do for someone, a gesture, a feeling, and something you share. That kind of stuff. Anyway,
we both know that the person that wants to use the relationship tier system is going to just then count out their gold, figure out what item they need to buy, and then hand it to the NPC.
Okay.
We know this because that person's not interested in. Well, I don't want to do blanket statements, but to me, that feels like that person is trying to get the simplest solution, and trying to brainstorm other more creative tokens doesn't seem like part of that person's way that they operate. This is a hypothetical person. Professor, what do you think?
I do really love Joe's optimism on the idea.
Yeah, man. I trust players out there. Jared, I think, has been turned against players after playing with me for a long time.
I love players. I just know what they do. I also love you going like, hey, this relationship system, it's a tool in the toolbox. You can use it or not. When we both know that players find out about all these things and then hand them to you like, we're doing this. Like... You can't have something in a book and expect a player not to try to use it, which is why every fucking time we do a Pathfinder game, the girls show up with uncommon, super rare spells.
It was in a book. It was in a book. Anything else, Professor Jester, before we let you go here? But
no, not really. I just want to thank Jared Logan for teaching me Vampire the Masquerade and how to play it.
Oh, that's awesome. Awesome.
Oh, you're
thanks for
welcome,
the
my
call,
friend.
Professor. We appreciate it. Man, that was episode 1 of GCR, and we will come back to more Vampire soon. I hope. We talk a lot about playing Vampire on the network again. We just got to try to find a way to make it work.
It's the best game.
Curdy, did you get your microphone to work by any chance, Curdy? No. It's not working, bud. Sorry. Bummer. We'll keep trying. Asteron wanted to weigh in, I think, on this conversation. Asteron, is this something we need? These NPC rules, these relationship mechanics?
Is it a need? I don't think so. Is it a good thing to have? Possibly. I mean, it could be good for a newer GM who doesn't want to get into the ins and outs of tracking, like, oh, does NPC like this PC or not? Now we have a stratified way of saying, here we go. This NPC is here, and I get where Jared's saying that PCs are going to try to gang the system and get it to the easiest way possible. But my PCs would love it. They'd have a field day with it, and they would be coming up with the most creative. My players would be coming up with the most creative ways to get in the system, and I think that's a good thing if you are not necessarily comfortable with tracking the relationship on your own.
Yeah. It makes sense. Thank you, Asteron. It does. It is tricky. Like you said, I don't know if you need it, but I think gamifying it is fun for some people. I don't know. I think that's another question, and maybe we can ask Verdukai. Verdukai, what's going on? Do you think it's fun to track relationships this way?
I don't. I think it's more fun if it kind of happens more naturally. Anytime it's come up in my games or games of y'all's that I've watched, it's more for like a humor break and just being funny. It's not like a long sustained relationship unless you count like Matthew and Kate, I guess.
Gross.
But I could see where I could see where some people would really like something like that if they're going to make maybe relationships a big part of their system. Like, you can't move past XYZ until your relationship with so-and-so improves or something like that. But for me,
maybe if it was like a game of courtly intrigue, if it was that kind of a game,
if it's less,
then it would make sense.
Yeah, like less of a fighting, dungeon crawling
100%.
type of game.
I mean, I think it stands to reason that this is not implied at all to be utilized in a game where NPCs are not terribly important to the story. You know what I mean? Like, I think that this is designed specifically for long-term campaigns where NPC relationships are essential to the plot. And essentially gamifying that. But Verdukai, I know when we enjoy doing NPC connections and relationships that are brief and hilarious, and that is a really fun way to play. I totally agree. I don't know.
I wanted to ask, just to move it to a different kind of topic in a way. Do you like romance in your role-playing games when you're playing? You just said that it's usually funny and quick, but between PCs and NPCs, how do you feel about that?
I mean, I like it personally. My very first role-playing game back in college, Verdukai, that's where she came from. She had a relationship with one of the other main PCs, and it became like a big, huge thing, like, star-crossed lovers, separated as kids, la la la. And it was a big part of the story, but it wasn't like a dice rolling fighting type of game. It was more like a round robin, like we're building a story type of game. So I enjoy it personally just because, even, listening to podcasts, my eyes tend to cross sometimes when you get way into like, 7 episodes of combat type of things. I enjoy more of the role-playing aspect and the character backstory building. So for me personally, I like relationships in games, but it's not like necessary to, have fun, I don't think.
Yeah, I agree.
I agree. I also think that generally speaking, relationships, especially ones that progress into romance, are so much better if they're few and far between. Like, if it's kind of a rare occurrence in your game, it makes it special. It makes it really interesting. I don't think it's something you should try to do in every game that you run.
Yeah.
Because
I think sometimes
it devalues it.
Sometimes it's kind of a first thought for some people. Like, the first thing they come up with is, I'll make my character interesting by attempting to have a romantic relationship with another character or an NPC. And I think it's kind of a first thing that people go to sometimes, and they should try to come up with
low-hanging fruit.
It's a little bit of a low-hanging fruit. Yeah. Sometimes it can be. And I also really prefer for it to happen, and this is why I'm not super hot on these NPC rules. I like for it to happen naturally and not like, session one from the jump, I'm going to try to fall in love with this person,
Right.
It happened on Haunted City, and it was extremely organic the way it happened, to the point where it actually surprised me. We had 2 PCs who ended up having a relationship, and it was cool. It was very cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think, like you said, it's if you wait for everything to be really established before introducing it, and you're not just coming out the gate like, I want to bone everyone, it's a lot better of a story to tell or to listen to.
Cool. Thank you for the call, Vertikai. We're going to get somebody else up here in a second. I want to throw a question out there to everybody. Let's talk about those initial interactions on the romance end of things, right? Where you kind of like somebody, right? Your PC kind of likes somebody. Could be another PC, or an NPC. I don't think it really matters in this case. Jared, in general, do you think that there are people out there in regular life? Do you think there are people out there that are just good, like excel at flirting, and people who just will never be good at it, no matter how hard they try? Or, in fact, the harder they try, the worse it gets. Like, do you feel that is an accurate statement of the spectrum of like the way people interact in real life?
I don't think that that's completely fair, that there are people that will never be good at flirting, or that there are people that are just incredible at it. I think that relationships are about chemistry. So the way that someone is not good at flirting might be really attractive to somebody else. And the way that someone thinks that they excel at hitting on girls may really turn off, I don't know why I said girls, at hitting on other people. I'm coming from a very heteronormative perspective.
You're so into chicks, Jared.
Look, you got to neg them, Joe. You got to neg them. The way that you hit on somebody might turn them off. I think it's all about chemistry, and different people go together in different ways. I don't think there's anybody who's bad at relationships. They just might not have found their way into them.
All right, let's see what Jobster thinks about all this. Jobster, thanks for being here every week, buddy. It's good to see you.
It's one of the perks of being unemployed. I get to join for these little broadcasts.
Right on. Hey, awesome. We want all of the Naish to be unemployed, Jobster.
Yeah. One day.
It's really got some financial consequences.
As it turns out.
Thanks for inviting me to talk about the new networking protocols.
Yes.
And I just want to kind of push back a little bit. I'm more on Joe's side, that I think this is a system that can be useful. Because Jared, you really favor at the table, in person, figuring it out as you play. And I assume you're kind of exaggerating your stance a little bit more to make for good radio, but I think that also is influenced by the fact that you are a comedian, improv performer, actor. You're in Los Angeles, where there's a bunch of those people around, and so you are surrounded by people who have perhaps a greater ability to read other people at the table and respond to them. Whereas I play at a mix of tables, and some tables have people on the spectrum for whom this system would be a tool that would let them have those interactions in the game in a way that they wouldn't be able to play out in real life.
And that's fair. That's fair. But what about my point that sometimes we need to stretch ourselves? Sometimes I'm not good at figuring out the rules, but I stretch myself to try to do it. So is there not an argument that someone who's really good at figuring out the rules and systems might learn something, or might enjoy even learning to improvise and read another person?
I think there is something there, and as I'm a teacher by profession, I'm a language teacher, so I encourage my students to stretch themselves. But at the same time, you can't push people out of their comfort zone. You can create a space where they feel comfortable stepping out, but to be it's for some people, they're just not as able to do it. And also, I feel like there's a difference in between system mastery and people don't have like social anxiety about optimizing their build, right?
That's what I was going to say. Like what you're talking about is not something that is deeply like personally impactful to somebody, min-maxing, right? Well, some people it is, but for those people, usually they're already good at it. I think relationships is something that can be very sensitive to some people and can really upset them that they don't have more or aren't better at it, you know?
Yeah, like being bad at math is something that not having been taught math the correct way, or a way that works for you. There's like fair. Not having math skills is not as big of an everyday, like it's not as much of a burden as not having great social skills. And yeah, it's people can develop anxiety. There's just a lot more that's social animals, being bad at the social part can really hurt.
Yeah. All right. Thanks, Jobster. Appreciate the call. And your mic sounds great. Call in anytime. I love a good sounding mic. That is something that definitely occurred to me as I first read these rules. I was like, I think that this is an interesting opportunity for folks that may have that may struggle a little bit socially to have a way in or a path that explains a little bit more what you need to do to increase somebody's how they value you in their life, to increase the importance of that relationship.
Just one more little retort to what Jobster was saying and what you were saying, Joe, is that I do think that there is pressure sometimes to be really good at the rules and to have them all like an encyclopedia in your head,
especially
in
for
a game
GMs.
context. So there is social pressure.
Yeah.
And there is, I do feel bad sometimes when I get a rule wrong, but I go ahead and I push myself. I don't know. I feel like role playing is good for people.
Yeah, it's good
I
practice.
think it's good for people.
It's reps, right? It's reps you can do in character to try to train yourself on. Like
exercise
positive.
or brushing your teeth, two things I don't do. Role playing is good for you.
Blueberry Rogue, Blueberry. What are your thoughts on this? You thinking more along Jared's line? You thinking more along the Joe line? What do you think?
I'm thinking I have a new book that I should be picking up on Friday when I get paid. My experience of romance and kind of little spicy relationship moments haven't happened in Pathfinders as much as it's happened in Blades in the Dark. My character, we were doing a jailbreak of sort, and my character was being really flirtatious with the prison guard, and it was one of those few times where I kind of stretched myself as a role player, and I felt like a little bit awkward doing this, and but the game runner, lovely Decca, he kind of whatever I threw, he kind of threw it back as being kind of like this Colonel Sanders-esque warden. But after the session, he made sure that he messaged me, and he was like, hey, I just wanted to check in and make sure everything was all right. How was, if you felt uncomfortable or anything. And I told him I appreciate him checking in. And if I ever felt uncomfortable about something, that I would bring it up or let him know ahead of time. And then one of our other player characters, in our gang has a tendency to do one night stands. So that's one of his vices. So we kind of encountered it. I'm kind of looking forward to the book to get some ideas. And then you kind of mentioned, did you want my kind of at the table story about love and relationships?
Sure.
Okay. So I started with Dungeons and Dragons thanks to my husband. We went to the gaming table, and everybody at the gaming table, we kind of were a family for many years. so much a family that they actually pulled me aside and said, "Hey, Jess, we've noticed this about your husband. Now, anytime that you want to go, we're there with you." So when I split with my husband, I got the gaming group.
Wow.
And
Wow.
and we are still pretty much friends to this day. I'm actually going to one of their houses this weekend with my kiddo, having a play date. But they just kind of really, again, encouraged me while I was role playing and just kind of seeing, okay, he was the one that kind of brought me into this world, but he's not, and it kind of questioned and again stretched how I felt and saw relationships.
Yeah.
And then even till this day, next week I'm going with a bunch of gaming friends who I consider my chosen family, and we're going to the live shows.
Oh,
And
amazing! Amazing.
So for me,
That's a hell of a check-in. The check-in is, are you sure you don't want to divorce your husband?
Yeah, they actually, one of the things I ended up getting like was an epic item after the separation for my in-game character. Her name is Strawberry the Ranger at the time. So
Nice.
yeah, and we had like a little party, and I'll put the picture of the cake that I brought for a celebration on the Discord chat, which y'all should be hanging out in. We're having a blast. Put that little plug in there.
Well,
so it's just again, tabletop games definitely let you have a better idea as a person and allows you to grow as a person. That's
well said. Sorry, Blueberry. Sorry. Well said. We have to move on, but thank you so much. That is
thank you, Blueberry.
A really good example of how, not only of how you can stretch yourself in games, but also the bleed, right? Bleed that occurs. And then also how gaming groups, man, they can form intense relationships that are good.
Yes.
That can be bad, but a lot of times, like, they can become like your family. You know what I mean? It's a really cool experience to be a part of. Jared, have you ever had a gaming group break up over a fight, like from the game, like because of the game?
Yes, I have. It's sad when it happens.
It is.
I don't want to go off on a rant. We save those for the end of the show. But
Yes.
One time I was in a group that they were never satisfied with the amount of work I did. They were like, well, why didn't you do this too? Why can't you do all this? Well, why can't you add this? They basically wanted me to be a CPU. They wanted me to be a computer for them to have fun
AI
with.
GM.
An AI, yeah. They wanted me to do all this extra stuff, and I just got kind of tired of it. So I was the GM, so I broke up the group. That sounds pretty cruel, but but gaming groups come and go. And I played with those people again later. I played with some of them again later. So
it's all about having fun. If you're not having fun, what's the point? W Story, what do you got on this? We're going to have to move on soon, but I love this conversation.
So I think, Joe, to your point, I think it's very good for NPCs to build that kind of, especially if you're newer to GMing, to build in those checkpoints to define those relationships, good or if they get better or worse. But to Jared's point, we're adults. We have to talk to each other, and that bleed is going to be hard to maintain. And romantically, like, they've got to talk to each other. But I think it's up to the DM to say, okay, what are we going to roll with here? But first and foremost, you got to trust each other.
Yeah.
right.
Yeah, I mean, we always talk about that.
I think trust comes from role playing. Trust comes from role playing. It comes from looking people in the eye, from listening to what they say to you, and then having them listen to you. That's what trust comes from. In a gaming group, anyway. I think
so. And like you've said, your Blades in the Dark group, that was very different than like what we've seen with Kate and Matthew.
Yeah,
it was a very different thing. And then even yesterday on Twitch with Mary Lou, I mean, you just have to trust each other. And
Yeah,
People need to know kind of what the outcome is going to be, and a performance is different than a home group as well.
Yeah, so perhaps, just thank you, W Story. That's well said, and thanks for mentioning Disorganized Play yesterday. So brief plug. Disorganized Play returned, a game that I haven't run in 6 years, returned yesterday live, and Jared played in a game that I ran. And I just sort of ran a dungeon crawl. It was a very last minute thrown together because we had to cancel another stream, and I wanted to get something out there for you guys. And we got a great crew together. Jared, Mary Lou, Sydney, and Rob Kirkovich. Rob, it was his first time ever playing 2E. Really fun. You can check out the VOD on Twitch. If you don't see that, the full produced video with the mastered audio will come out as soon as possible. I'm not sure when that's going to be, maybe next week. Anyway, that game, Mary Lou sort of decided out of the gate to be flirty. She was definitely her in character. She was definitely flirty to the other characters, all of the other characters, in one way or another. And everybody had a different response. Some people sort of embraced it a little bit, maybe did a little flirt back. Some people put the immediate stop sign up, right? The immediate hand up. And it was so funny, and it created great content. Yes. I do not think that when your party is sort of like interplaying like this, you need to step in as the GM and say, okay, so would you say at this point you're associated? Right, or are you just acquaintances, right? Like, you don't need to put labels on everything, but I do think that this is an interesting tool to utilize, particularly for NPCs. But man, that was fun yesterday.
That was really fun. She really always does incredible stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, Mary Lou brought such great stuff to the table, and
without that, Rob's character's backstory wouldn't have come out.
Exactly.
And we wouldn't have had that.
Responded to that in improv and developed backstory for himself that he didn't have before. Like, it's just really, really cool. All right. Should we take one more here before we move on?
Let's take one more. This is a good combo. Let's take one more and then we'll move on.
I'd love to take more, but yeah, we have a lot to talk about. And you know what? I had stuff I want to talk about in the NPC guide, so we'll come back to it later. We'll talk a little bit more about it maybe in another episode, because there's great rules in here that were not in Pathfinder before, beyond just NPC relationships and advancement. But we're running out of time today, but let's bring it up maybe next week or the week after. Alex, any final words here on romance and relationships in games?
Yeah, well, I just wanted to point out, like, both Jared and Joe, both of you have run games like Last Can Network with mechanics for relationships. I mean, Blades in the Dark has a whole faction relationship system that doesn't stop your interplay with those different factions. Yeah. And Delta Green has, like, there's numerical values for your bonds, and that's certainly, it just offers a sort of another lens to, like, view the role playing.
That's a great point, and that I did think about that as I first read through this. And again, this isn't like extensive stuff that they've put into the rule book. 2 pages. They put 2 pages into this 300-page book about relationships, and because they thought maybe somebody might want to use this. As I read it, I thought of Delta Green bonds. It was one of the first things I thought of. It's like, all right, so how would I categorize the relationships of the bonds we've had in previous seasons of Delta Green? All right, so this was a bonded person, right? This was a spouse. This would have been a committed person. This was like a long-time friendship. This is my therapist, right? This is what? And maybe an associated person. I'm not sure. So trying to define it through bonds was interesting, and I'll get back to you in 1 second. Bonds is an essential mechanic to me to what makes Delta Green Delta Green. And it made me think maybe putting in more NPC relationships, even NPCs that are created by players, that you then take as the GM and say, what would you like to do with this? All right, let me now throw some rocks at it and mess with you while we're playing. It's a good idea for Pathfinder too. I think it deepens the game.
Yeah, and it doesn't, it like the numbers of your bonds are like who you have a bond with doesn't prevent you from having interesting relationships with other characters. Yeah. Troy and Sid's relationship in Delta Green, sometimes it's reflected by the bonds, sometimes it's not, and that never stops the role playing from working.
Yeah. Thank you, Alex. Good call. I think they can work alongside of each other. Jared, we can play together and still have fun, even though these rules exist. Okay?
It's true. No, it's true. It's true. It's just, He's mentioning the faction system for Blades in the Dark. I feel like working for a faction and getting a good opinion from them is a little different from, a one-on-one relationship with an NPC. I just think it's very different.
Yeah, I mean, I could certainly see it both ways. What I think is very important to instill here as a parting point is, while we like to highlight the romance angles here that people are obviously going to go to first, this system is designed for all forms of relationships.
It's true, and this system's also designed for organizations. If you wanted to be, track your relationship with a thieves guild or something.
And we haven't talked about the negative sides, which are really fun in this too. To categorize how an enemy goes from despised to vindictive, right?
Imagine
to have somebody out there that wants to destroy you, that is actively looking to ruin your life. It's what an interesting element to add into your game. An NPC that's messing with you while you're trying to defeat the big bad.
But imagine defeating the main bad guy of your campaign by just raising him on that relationship status all the way to marrying him.
Why not? Why not?
I mean, it's probably not how the AP is written, but whatever.
Why does the big bad have to be a guy, Jared? Why does it have to be a guy?
It has to be a man.
The big bad is always
It has to be a man.
All right, guys. Obviously, so many people want to talk about it. We love it, and sorry we can't get to everybody, but let's keep it going. Let's see what else we can talk about today.
All right. Well, the other night I flicked on my Disney Plus and I put on Daredevil Born Again. This is a sequel to the Daredevil television series that was on Netflix for many years. And now it is it's moved to Disney Plus because Marvel is owned by Disney, and Disney has all the Marvel television shows. So they've now moved it to Disney Plus. Charlie Cox is still Daredevil. We still have Deborah Ann Wall, someone big in the gaming world, and some of the actors have returned as well. I am a huge fan of the character Daredevil. Joe, you don't know much about it, right?
Nope.
Do you know anything about Daredevil?
I know that Daredevil is blind, and that he's a New York superhero.
Yes,
and that he's a lawyer, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's right. That I know. I never read a single comic, and I was surprised at a pre-show when we were working on the rundown for this week. I was surprised at how emphatic you were about your love of Daredevil. So I'm curious, like, what makes Daredevil such a great superhero?
So for whatever reason, there are some characters who have just somehow attracted the greatest writers who have written the best stories. And with a character like Batman, it's a no-brainer because it's such a high-level marquee A-list character. But there was a time when Daredevil was, a very low DC or D-list character, but then Frank Miller did a run on the Daredevil comic. And since then, there have been so many great stories told in the comics by Ed Brubaker. There was Mark Waid did an incredible run. Brian Michael Bendis did an incredible run on Daredevil. These are all really worth reading. Most recently, Chip Zdarsky, the comic writer Chip Zdarsky, with the artist Mark Cicchetto, did an incredible run on Daredevil that kind of focused on the ethics of beating up criminals. Is this something that we should be doing? Mm-hmm. Is this something a good guy does? And Daredevil as a character is always investigating these kinds of issues. Daredevil is extremely street level. On a bad night, 5 guys with crowbars can beat Daredevil. That's one of the things I love about Daredevil. On a really bad night, 5 guys with crowbars are his arch nemesis, okay? He's not like this sort of ultimate badass like Batman where he can beat anything. And he often is reflective about what he's doing and what good it really is doing. And he has one of the best villains, several of the best villains in comics, but Wilson Fisk, the Kingpin, is an incredible villain who also has all those shades of gray. He's this He's this horrifying, tyrannical murderer, but he's also very much in love with his wife and has a very loving and trusting and loyal relationship with her. He is this like giant thug, but at the same time, he really enjoys art and the finer things in life. Anyway.
Was he originally a Daredevil villain? I thought that he was a Spider-Man villain.
He was a Spider-Man villain. And then eventually he found his way into Daredevil in a way that eventually he became kind of Daredevil's main arch nemesis. Whereas Spider-Man, Doc Ock and Green Goblin filled that role for him. So the mythology of Daredevil is incredible. And all of those writers I mentioned have like multi-issue runs that you must read. I swear every one of those is a must read. They are so good. And then we have the TV show. Have you watched any of the TV show?
Based on this and us discussing it, you said just watch the first episode of the new show on Disney Plus. So I did that.
All right. What did you think of that?
Positives? Well, first of all, it did feel like a sequel. I felt a little bit lost.
I was a little bit lost too, Joe. I couldn't believe that they just jumped in and they didn't go, hey, just a reminder, here's where he's at. Here's who the characters are. Like, and this is a problem with all of the Marvel TV shows and movies now, is that they just go, you've memorized all of this, let's go. And it's like, dude, I have a fucking life. I have children. I don't sit around studying the Netflix Daredevil show. Why don't you give me a goddamn minute and tell me who these people are again?
So I was a little bit lost. One thing that I'll say that jumped out that I really love is him being blind created something that I so greatly appreciate that I never did before my career in voiceover, which is I started to learn so much about the world of audio. And it wasn't just because of the VO actors that I represented, it's because that I would so often have relationships with recording studios. And those studios a lot of times would do cinematic recordings, they would do like Foley work and stuff. They had Foley rooms and stuff. So I'd learn a lot about how cinematic audio is done. I started to actually care about sound editing and the Oscars, right? And like sound design. Right. The sound is awesome.
Right.
It's so cool how they fade in and out from like what everybody else hears and then what he hears. And while he's in the middle of a conversation, literally somebody's talking to him and that sound will just kind of like quickly fade out and you'll hear something else like really far away. And then he just slightly turns his head. Very cool. It was almost like
cool.
Like a new way of doing Spidey sense, but from a production standpoint, I was really impressed with the sound editing and the sound design.
It's an opportunity to play with sound. His powers are an opportunity to do cool things with sound. Absolutely.
So I thoroughly enjoyed that. I really liked him. And talk about relationships. One of my favorite scenes was like they had a simple little scene where he gets set up like on a date by a friend, but he didn't know it was a date. And the same thing happened to the other person. She didn't know it was going to be a date. And that scene was very charming and very fast and honest and played really well, and it made me like him. So it was a good way to like help me like this person.
I don't think you get that kind of scene with Thor. You know what I mean?
Right, exactly.
You don't get that kind of scene with Batman. You're never going to see that kind of scene. But with Daredevil, you can pull it off, which is why Daredevil is a really great choice for television. Yeah. So really briefly, can you give me some cons to the show? Not knowing where you were.
Number one con was it was confusing. I didn't really like there's somebody who dies at the beginning and it's a huge deal. And I'm like, why is this a huge deal?
Yeah,
and they don't
who
really
knows
explain.
This person? I did remember this character, but I would have loved a little bit of a refresher on their relationship. Yeah,
exactly. And then like also the villain, like I don't know who that is. Whoever.
That's Bullseye.
Right. And you know what? I thought about just looking on my
Bullseye.
phone. And this happens to me all the time with like Marvel movies, Marvel TV shows. I'm always like, everybody knows who this person is but me. So let me just Google the real name of this person. They just said, oh, I've heard of the name Bullseye. Okay. Anyway, that was a little bit confusing. Otherwise I mostly liked it. I definitely liked it, and I certainly appreciate it. Oh, there's one more pro that I can give in terms of story ideas. This is a trope, and it's a trope that I thoroughly enjoy. The reformed bad guy.
Yeah.
Like, is he really reformed? Right?
Yeah.
I think it's a great trope because you're, as an audience member, it's that you never really know, right? Can you really trust? And I love it a lot more when they don't tell the audience that he isn't, and the hero doesn't know, and that dramatic irony where you're sitting there being like, oh, you gotta find this out. I like it when they don't tell the audience either, but they keep you guessing. And that, I don't know if that's where it's going, but that's sort of what they set up.
You're speaking, of course, about the fact that Wilson Fisk, the Kingpin, played incredibly by Vincent D'Onofrio.
Also another pro. I love Vincent D'Onofrio.
D'Onofrio in anything, but he's the perfect person to play the Kingpin, which is why they used him also in Hawkeye as the Kingpin, and they continue to use him that way. So he is running for mayor of New York. Okay, we'll just say that so we don't get into too many spoilers. That is straight out of the Zdarsky and Mark Cicchetto run of the Daredevil comics, and that is an incredible subplot because instead of Daredevil and Kingpin fighting, and I'm talking in the comics, I don't know what's going to happen in the show, but instead of them fighting, we're just kind of following the Kingpin trying to navigate politics, and people keep insulting him to his face. Because as a politician, you have to take some of that,
Yeah.
And you just see him just like, don't murder this person. Don't murder this person. And his struggle to become respectable, to stop being a murderer and a thug is a really kind of incredible journey to see in those comics. And I really recommend that run.
I also think they do a good job of the other side of that coin of sort of explaining for Daredevil, who is a lawyer.
Yeah.
It's kind of hard to deny the fact that vigilante justice is against the law.
Yes.
And so he struggles with that. And so out of the gate, you kind of have a little bit of like, maybe they're setting up kind of a Cold War, right? Between the Kingpin and Daredevil, where neither of them can go at each other, but they're both watching each other and they're both waiting for somebody to slip up. Because on that end too, it's like if he actually gets that power, if he's actually the mayor, he can shut down Daredevil legally, right? Like it's very interesting. That's cool.
You can create a task force or whatever.
Right.
I'd love to hear what the Naish has to say. If they have any thoughts on the Daredevil comic books or the Daredevil TV show, or even just Marvel shows in general and how you're thinking they're working at this point in the evolution of the MCU. Would love to hear from you guys. So let's get someone on the line. Does anybody want to talk?
I've asked Mark to come up here. Mark D. Mark!
Hey, Joe. How's it going?
What's up, dude?
Dude, I haven't talked to you in ages.
I mean, a very, very, very long time. Mark comes out of the comics business. I know Mark because of our good buddy Nick Lowe.
Awesome.
And it's been a long time, Mark. I'm so happy you're here.
And I'm glad to be here. I wanted to give some insights on your buddy Nick Lowe there. So when I started at Marvel back in the day, Nick was an intern in the Marvel Knights office working on that Brian Michael Bendis run.
Wow.
And he befriended Alex Malev, the artist, and got drawn into the comic book as Detective Nick Love. So he is Nick Love in the Brian Michael Bendis run. Can you see the photo ref visuals of him as this like beat cop who gets involved in that storyline? And that has been my nickname for Nick for many a year.
Oh man,
Awesome.
I never knew that. I'm going to call him Nick Love now too. Detective Nick Love.
I wanted him to get his own spin-off book or like a TV show, Detective Nick Love.
That is amazing.
It's Mark, a great character name.
Have you watched the Daredevil TV series?
I'm not current with I haven't watched the new stuff yet. I did watch like a recap video because I feel like I missed the third season of the Netflix show.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
I trailed off halfway through. So I'm queued up to be able to watch it, but I had forgotten a bunch of things as well.
What did you think of the initial run on Netflix?
There were aspects of it that I really enjoyed. The street level things were was really interesting. some of the variations, the deviations that they took, I wasn't that keen on. Like, I feel like they kind of wasted some of the characters to a bit. But there's Detective Nick Love.
Oh my God, McD already got it. He put it in Discord chat. That's amazing. We have a search and seizure warrant. He's saying, amazing.
He has like this whole interrogation scene because it's the storyline is as Jared could say is that they Matt's identity is revealed.
Yeah,
it's Daredevil, and so he's like arrested at some point, and I think they're interrogating him in the office because it's been a while since I've read that run. I can't remember exactly what.
No, it's so good. That's just one of the things that happens. The art is beautiful. Bendis is, of course, an all-time legend. But they reveal his identity. Then he gets arrested. Then the Brubaker run just starts with him in prison. So Daredevil's in prison, and that's a whole storyline. And of course, if you're a vigilante who went to prison, things can get bad right away, and they do. So I really highly recommend the Brubaker and the Bendis run so much because they're so much fun.
The stuff that I actually got to work on was when all these things were coming out. I was in the trade paperback department, so I made the Frank Miller omnibus collections. I edited those, and in gathering stuff for those, I got to go to Frank Miller's apartment in Hell's Kitchen. His assistant dug up all kinds of stuff that's in the back of those collections, like his initial pitch for the graphic novel for Man Without Fear.
Oh, wow.
And I got fun stuff. Mazzucchelli sent a bunch of things, all those, his like layouts for and pencils for Born Again run that they're clearly inspired by in the new series is all that. But the designer on those collections was a friend of GCN, Pat McGrath. He designed those collections.
Oh, wow. Pat McGrath, who designed the Glass Cannon podcast logo, both the old one and the new one.
I didn't know GCN had such deep Marvel roots. I knew about Nick, but...
Yeah.
That's how I met Jill, through Nick. I played softball with you in Central Park and the dodgeball in Queens.
Yep. Softball and dodge. Mark and I are athletes, Jared.
Yeah.
Sure.
No far more than I.
As many comic book fans are.
Mark, thank you so much for calling. Dude, please call again.
Nice to meet you, Mark.
It's great to hear from you.
Jared. I'm going to see you guys in Ann Arbor when you're here. I got my ticket for this show.
Awesome, dude. All right, great. We'll see you there. We'll catch up. Thanks for calling it. That was great, man. Mark is such a great guy, and we got to play on teams together, like he said, back in the day. Oh, the good old days, Jared. Before kids and life and
before children.
Ownership. Yeah.
the BC era.
BC era.
Let's
get a couple more Daredevil calls here before we have to move on. Scram! I love saying your name, Scram.
Hello, friends.
What's going on?
Scram.
How you been?
Good. It's good to see you guys again, wherever you are. I love Daredevil as a big Spider-Man fan. I'm very like Daredevil adjacent in that way. Like my favorite part of the Chip Zdarsky run is when he talks about how badass Spider-Man is. But the part that makes it good is that they treat each other with respect. Like they really do respect each other. And Spider-Man like threatens him. I don't know if you remember that, Jared. He's just like,
I remember that part.
Kill someone again, I'll put you down. And like coming from Spider-Man, that's a promise, you know? Like he doesn't just say that. He's the goofy child of Marvel. And that's like the best part of the comics for me is the when they get to interact but not be burdened by crossover events and all these things happening. And it just feels like the most realistic of two heroes that grew up near each other and respecting each other.
Yeah. I love that. They take time because those guys do come into contact a lot. They're both the street level New York guys. And Zdarsky takes time to just take a couple issues to develop that relationship and to even change it to where unexpectedly you see Spider-Man saying, if I have to, I'm going to take you down, Daredevil, because Daredevil starts doing certain questionable things. But I love that. I'm with you. When they take time to develop a relationship like that, instead of just doing a team up or a fight, that's really fun.
Garbage Boy, what do you got to say on Daredevil? As I recall, you chimed in pretty quick that you wanted to say something here on Daredevil. So if you're still there, we'd love to hear from you. I got to get this. I got to get my Marvel Unlimited up and running. So, do you have Marvel Unlimited, Jared? Do you read comics on your smart devices?
I read comics on my smart devices.
Yeah,
Yes,
I got to
that's
get that up
correct,
and running, and I can check out that run.
And
Garbage Boy.
I read a
Hello?
lot of comics still. Oh, hey, Garbage Boy.
Hear me?
Yeah, we
Yeah.
got you.
All right. I have not read much of the Daredevil comics. I read a little bit of Marvel Unlimited, but I was a big fan of the show. I really love season 1. It was one of the best shows I've ever seen. First half season 2 of The Punisher was very good, and season 3 it was also very good. I have not seen or heard much about the new Daredevil show, but I do want to check it out.
I think only 2 episodes are out. So if you haven't heard much yet, then that makes sense. You know, it's not really completed.
I didn't know if they released the whole thing. That's good to know that there's only 2 eps out, and I've seen one of them, so I'm not too far behind.
I think I'm going to continue. I mean, it has an incredible fight as well. Big comic book fight. It may be a little over the top, actually, but that first episode doesn't skip on the action.
You know what I liked about that fight, and I'll keep it as spoiler-free as I can, Garbage Boy, is just it felt very real because, and this is something you never see in superhero fights, is fatigue. Like actual fatigue. And they really showed fatigue of like 2 boxers that don't get a break. Like at a certain point, they get real slow, right? Like that was cool. It was a cool idea.
Yeah, I feel like the Daredevil show has always been really good at that. Like especially that famous one-shot hallway fight scene from the first season. That was just like one of the best fights I've ever seen. And by the end, he's like stumbling because he's just getting done through so much punishment and stuff. It was so good.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thanks for calling in, Garbage Boy. Appreciate the take. And there's our first like person that says they've seen the whole first series on Netflix and really liked it. So, I may have to check it out. I think Nick really liked it too, at least the first season of the Netflix show. I feel like I remember him saying that. Let's get one more in here. The Erickson, before we move on, we got to talk about some Irish folklore. But first.
Oh, we sure do.
Erickson.
Hey, guys.
Hey,
how's it going?
Hi. Oh, we're
doing great, man. Thanks.
We're doing great.
Yeah, I've been a big Daredevil fan since I think I'm like with Jared, where he's kind of like vulnerable and it feels more real. And I just thought he was a cool hero. I always like the agile heroes like Spider-Man and him. But the show, I'm a huge fan. I watched the first season. I'm surprised they don't have the recap like you mentioned, because like I just started watching Andor too, because everyone loves Andor. And they do big recaps for the Star Wars shows like every episode, but they didn't do it for the Marvel. I haven't started season 2, the new Daredevil. But I'm a huge fan of the cast, and I had a little moment where I was with my ex-girlfriend. Her cousin was getting married, and she's friends with Deborah Ann Wall, who was at the wedding. And I was like, oh my God, I'm like totally like shocked. And I was like really starstruck with her. But
did you talk to her?
I did get to talk to her a little bit. She's super nice. And like, I already knew about her from like RPGs, because she does a lot of like streaming and role-playing stuff at that time still. She was cool. And I love True Blood. Like that was a great show.
True Blood. I'm a True Blood fan.
Yeah. But from the comics, I remember I was a little kid, and I managed to get my hands on Daredevil 182, which is the Elektra Died series. It's like Frank Miller and Klaus Janson did the ink. And I remember getting it. And that's not a kid's book. Like at some point he goes to the cemetery and digs up Elektra, like to make sure that she's.
Well, Frank Miller's
dead.
the one that made it like an adult book. He's the one that made it gritty and like street level and tough. Like
exactly.
Before that, Daredevil was like jumping around fighting Stilt Man.
That's true. And I was like a younger kid, but I used to like going to my local comic store and just like seeing the wall of like big books. And I remember bringing that one home, and I was like, oh my God, there's a corpse. His face was like so like scared. And then later in my life, I found a Klaus Janson signed 182. So I picked that up.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Well, I appreciate you guys.
Hey, appreciate you. Thanks for coming on. Thanks for calling in.
Thanks, man.
Oh, love it when people call in. Please raise those hands. Let's see if anybody's interested in our next topic here. We're celebrating St. Patrick's Day the Glass Cannon Radio way.
Oh, St. Patrick's Day.
Oh, St. Patrick's Day. Now, this used to be a big day for me. Nick Lowe, too. We used to like go out and go drinking on St. Patty's Day night, and it was always the best if it was like during the week.
Get the big green top hat on Joe O'Brien.
Yeah, big, beaded necklaces with the big shamrock at the bottom. And man, what a scene. And it was,
comedians used to call that amateur night.
Literally, that was the next sentence coming out of my mouth is, of course it is amateur night. But there was a time in my mid-20s, I was friends with Nick Lowe and a couple of our other buddies, and we both lived on the same sort of stretch of a long road called Broadway in Astoria, and there were some great Irish pubs on that street. And so one that was right near Nick's apartment at the time, he would go in a month or more before and reserve a table. So we had a space. We weren't big fans of walking into completely packed restaurants on St. Patty's Day. But if we had a place to get there, get a table, sit down, have our crew, and just start having beers and having fun, man, we took that excuse. It was a great time. These days, never will you see me out on St. Patrick's Day, but it used to be really a ton of fun.
I did it when I was young, but now I'm sober. I'll be sober 3 years on St. Patrick's Day. I count from St. Patrick's Day.
Wow.
Because I don't remember exactly when I quit in 2022, but I remember I definitely didn't drink on St. Patrick's Day of 2022.
Oh, you don't remember that? I thought it was because on St. Patrick's Day 2022, you got blackout drunk and killed a man. And the next day you were like, I got to stop this drinking.
That's what other people think when I tell them. Have I told you my joke that I like to do?
No.
Anytime you tell someone that you stopped drinking, you see them thinking about why you had to stop. So anytime I tell someone I stopped drinking and I see them thinking, the next thing I say is, when I drink, I'm not good to my kids.
Oh, God, that's the worst one. I would have rather you killed a guy at the St. Patrick's Day parade.
I just like to fuck with them.
Yeah.
Okay, so but the way we're gonna get into St. Patrick's Day as TTRPG fans is we are going to look at some Irish stats. We're gonna look at the
how do they stat out the Irish, Jared? How do they stat them out?
Does Paizo Incorporated, a division of Raytheon, truly understand the Irish-American experience? We're going to find out by looking up the stat block for Leprechaun in Bestiary 2.
In the Bestiary 2. What does it say, Jared? What's the stat block
First
say?
of all, let's always say Paizo has such incredible artwork. Look how scary this leprechaun is. Look at this terrifying
it's
demon
terrifying
from hell.
Because it's also kind of jovial at once, which is more terrifying in a way. It's glowing green emerald eyes. It seems to kind of be dancing with a shillelagh in one hand and a bag of gold in the other, and it's just kind of laughing at you. Oh man, terrifying.
Well, first of all, let me say, so I looked up leprechauns in the folklore, and a lot of the things that we know about them are kind of wrong in terms of the old folklore. A lot of that stuff is recently added by greeting card companies or, commercial interests. So, leprechauns don't actually appear in the old Irish mythology, of the Tuatha De Danann, if you know anything about that kind of stuff. And did you know, I always thought leprechauns, you go to the end of the rainbow and you grab their gold, right?
Mm-hmm.
But apparently they also, in a lot of the stories, give 3 wishes, like a genie. And then also, they're always working on shoes, which is, I thought that was an elf thing, like a little elf, not a Tolkien elf thing.
Right.
Basically, when you look into folklore at all, it's just kind of fairies. And yeah, there's a lot of names for them, but they all kind of overlap and do a lot of the same stuff. Apparently, according to the legends, they wore red, not green.
Oh boy, you're ruining everything now.
I know. So let's talk about the Pathfinder Leprechaun, okay? Let's look at these stats.
So the Pathfinder Leprechaun is fey. It's important to realize this is a fey creature. It's really a fey.
Small.
It's a level 2 creature. It's a creature 2, and it's a small fey, mischievous fey. Right now, a lot of fey are mischievous. Really, the core behind a leprechaun is to mess with you. That seems to be their main thing. If you look at their primary innate spells, illusory creature, illusory object, invisibility.
Yep.
These are to mess with people. Like that's what they're for. Oh, and the first level spells, first level primary innate, color spray, shillelagh, those can kind of be combat spells, but then you have ventriloquism, right? It's just weird stuff to kind of mess with your head. Dancing lights, ghost sound, mage hand, prestidigitation, all of these.
Right, and the reflex save is the highest, so at second level maybe your players can't hit them if they're trying to get away or jump away or something like that.
And special ability, 2 actions. Create object. 3 times per day, the leprechaun can just produce an item out of their hat. Any item in the world of 1 bulk or less that is, it's typically mundane and does not have a lot of intricate, artwork or anything to it. But yeah, it pulls an item out of its hat and it lasts for an hour. Something like that.
So this is an encounter. This is not a combat encounter. This is a encounter, I think, in a game where you are trying to trick the players in some way.
Yeah.
This is a creature that steals from your players, probably by swindling or deceiving them in some way, I think.
Or literally pickpocketing. They have a +8 to thievery, which is very good at second level. A very high deception as well. Also, I love that the leprechaun has gold lore. Love gold lore. That's awesome.
So the one thing I read about the folklore is, they used to say that the gold was buried. The leprechaun's gold was buried, and that was based on the fact that in Ireland, the Danes, the Vikings, basically, that had come and dwelled in the British Isles for a long time and had controlled it, they had actually literally buried gold under the ground, and occasionally people would find it later, and then that kind of got wrapped into the legend of a leprechaun having gold. So I think that this is an encounter where the creature is trying to trick your players. That can be a very hard encounter to pull off.
Yeah. It can be. I think one of the first things you have to do is cast invisibility kind of before the combat begins. Then you need to create things like illusory object or illusory creature and not have it attack the PCs, right? Once it attacks the PCs, the leprechaun would become visible, at least in the way that I would rule that, right? But if it's an illusion that is messing with the PCs but not actively attacking them, the leprechaun can stay invisible. So they can see something or an effect and have no idea what the source is. They can find out that it's an illusion, but still not know what created it. Maybe they hear laughter in the, echoing off the walls of the room. They can't really locate it just yet, that kind of thing. And then this creature can obviously produce random stuff from its hat. Really funny to produce something, it's invisible in its hand, then it sets it down. When it moves away, it becomes visible. So suddenly a random object that would be funny to your party just appears on a table.
Yeah.
Anyway, you can have a lot of fun with that.
I think it's a lot of fun because it's not just another combat encounter. So I would definitely use this in a game. I will also say, if you ever have NPCs or creatures that are trying to trick a party and they're talking to a party, right? Mm-hmm. It's going to be really hard to get players to buy into something like that because players are so paranoid. But one thing that always will get players, and this happened a little bit in Blood of the Wild, I don't want to spoil too much. If you start talking about trading items, which clearly this leprechaun is able to kind of truck in that, suddenly players are like, well, we need items. Like, oh, they have a magic item?
I would say the key part of that is you're establishing something that the other creature wants.
Right.
So if you feel like that creature wants something and you know its motivations, you can, I think, a little bit easier be blinded to its fake motivation, which is to lure you into a trap and hurt you, right? Like, if it feels like its motivations are self-serving, and if it feels like its motivations are to get its thing, and it could help you in the process, it seems realistic to players.
It does,
and they'll fall for it. Yeah.
Right. If the creature seems completely selfless and is just doing something for the players out of the kindness of its heart, they're not going to believe that.
Let's talk mechanics. Let's bring it back to our discussion of relationship mechanics. Things you think we don't need in this game because you should kind of role play with each other. How do you role play a situation where you, as the GM, are not as deceptive as the creature? Mechanically, it has a +9 to deception. You could, theoretically, secretly roll the deception, and it could be against the player's
Will DC.
perception DC.
Perception DC.
You could do a perception check, or if they have lie to me, a deception DC. Or you could do a secret perception check to see if they know it's lying, all behind the screen, right? And you could say, your character, you know that this is a lie, but your character doesn't. Like, do you ever do that? Is that something you do with deception? Or do they have to believe you, the game master?
I think that that's a fine way to run it, but I think it's tough. It would be really hard to tell players, you know that this is a lie, but you now must do things that are detrimental to your player characters because they don't know. You know, I would say I would make it very an either or, light switch on or off. Like if I said you guys are tricked by this, then something happens and that's done. I wouldn't want them to have to continue to play the scene and be wrong and be tricked, you know, because I think that would be hard for me, even if I love improv and acting and things like that. Even if your players throw themselves into that, it's hard to do things that are to your own character's detriment, I think.
Well, everybody knows I do plenty of things to my own character's detriment, but I do believe that...
Not on purpose, though.
Sometimes. Anyway.
Sometimes.
What I'm getting at is, as a devil's advocate to that, and it's really just kind of a tangent as opposed to an opposite side, is really like, I do enjoy that. I think there's something, like I enjoy having information my character doesn't and playing that accordingly. No, of course, is that great 100% of the time? No, there are times when that really sucks. But I think there's times when that's really fun, even when you're putting yourself in a bad situation. And I think the reason is, at least for me, and we could talk about bleed here, I get like an emotional reaction to being deceived or fooled by a GM in real life. And I'm not mad at the GM. I'm mad at myself that like I didn't see it coming and it makes me angry. I would feel a lot better knowing that my character is being fooled and playing that aspect and leaning into it because I have more information and I'm not the idiot. You know what I mean? Like, anyway.
Yeah, sure.
Just
no,
that's
that's super interesting. Yeah, I think it's super valid to tell people you are deceived. I think that would be a tricky thing to role play from the players.
I don't disagree necessarily. Just throwing out a lot of different angles. Let's talk to Bumblescum. Bumblescum, do you have something to say on leprechauns here? Your mic is muted. There you go.
Yeah. Hey. So I was actually looking at because I used to play a lot of first edition, and I've dealt with leprechauns in first edition before.
Oh, really? Okay.
And I wanted to say, like, I think Jared's right on the money that these are not meant to be combat encounters in a way. Mm-hmm. They actually have the ecology section of the original Leprechaun that mentions that they specifically do not prefer to kill other creatures, and it's mostly all about, you know, finding ways to trick your players and like make them think the forest is haunted or something like that.
Yeah. Interesting. And they laid that out back in the 1E bestiary.
Yeah. Otherwise, most of the stats almost identical. In some formal way.
Was it like a level 2 creature in 1E?
Yep. It's a CR2.
CR2. Yeah. Okay. Cool. That's awesome. Yeah. Thanks for the tidbit. How did the leprechaun appear in your game in 1E?
Well, I did a holiday one shot, like a mega dungeon, where they were saving Santa, and all the players played different holiday inspirations. So I had a lot of enemies that were also holiday inspirations. So they were just kind of, you know, this mega dungeon of them doing that.
That's clever.
That's awesome.
That's great. You know who should be in there? I was just thinking, I was going through the holidays and thinking, like, what doesn't have? And I was like, you know what would be amazing is an Uncle Sam villain, like 4th of July, like the guy in the top hat and everything, but he's like some sort of evil mastermind. It'd be so
also,
funny.
has Pathfinder statted turkeys yet for Thanksgiving? Turkeys are dangerous.
They are.
Yeah.
They'll run up on you. I can hear Bumblescum looking it up.
I was like, well, most animals are like, turkeys are actually using the Raven statistics. So
well, that's fine. That's fine. You know, I like
That'll work.
reskinning
Anyway,
things.
thanks,
That'll
Bubblescum.
work.
Thanks for the call. That
Thank
sounds like
you.
a really fun idea. The holiday themed one shot. Everybody plays a holiday icon and then put a bunch of holiday icon enemies in there. That's really fun. Let's do another Irish folklore enemy that shows up in Pathfinder.
Oh, absolutely. So, because we were talking about the leprechaun, we decided to also get out our monster core and look up the banshee, which is, of course, a ghost or spirit of Irish folklore. And this banshee, this is a badass banshee, man.
This is a lot different than the leprechaun. First of all, let's just, before we put anything up and start talking about stat blocks, let's for a second just talk about the banshee. So the banshee, when I think of a banshee, I immediately think of the 1959 film Darby O'Gill and the Little People. This was a movie that, as an Irish kid growing up, you watched it. We watched this a bunch of times. And Sean Connery is actually in that movie, a young Sean Connery. And I'll never forget, there's a scene with a banshee. And it is so scary when you're a kid watching this. And it's because the woman in the story at the time, she falls on this mountaintop or she faints or something, and she's like hurt. And Darby O'Gill is like trying to protect her. And he comes up to the mountain, and this banshee comes out, screeching, wailing, attempting to take the life of this girl who's been knocked out and is like kind of unconscious. And it's this, for 1959, not bad effects, like this floating kind of like bluish green spirit. You can't see a face. It's just like a hooded cow, long flowing hair, and it's reaching these like unnaturally long fingers out to grab the woman, and it's screeching, and he's yelling back at it like, "No, away, foul spirit," whatever. Yeah. So and it scared me as a kid. It's scared. That scene always scared me. So then I started looking up banshees, like for the purposes of this, and from a folklore perspective, I'm summarizing, but you're basically talking about the lore of a woman who is so violently betrayed in life to her death, typically killed by a loved one or a trusted person.
Which probably, unfortunately, happened a lot.
Probably happened a lot.
More than you'd think, men just kind of offing their wives and things like that.
Exactly. So horrifically betrayed that in the afterlife, they become this spirit of pure evil that really seeks the destruction of families, right? Like wants to like kill families and like your loved ones and haunt them and kill them and stuff like that. And one of my favorite lines about it, I think it comes from the Monster Core. I think. Oh yeah, this is it. It's the last line of the first paragraph. I love this line. Some speculate that the more kind-hearted the person, the crueler the banshee.
Yeah.
So like if they were incredibly kind in life, it proportionally makes them that much more horrifying as a banshee. And so what Jared is saying here, when he talks about this is not a leprechaun you're dealing with, this is no joke. We're talking about a CR-17 creature, a creature 17.
I was surprised because in
me
5e,
too.
In 5e, the Banshee is a level 4, and I think that's been
shocked
for years.
That it was a creature 17. Shocked.
I mean, that's a goddamn boss battle, man.
I mean, that's a boss battle at the end of a 2-year campaign. Like, this is a major encounter with just.
Here's what you do: you betray her and kill her at level 1 or 2. And then she comes back at level 17 and kicks your ass.
You use the relationship mechanics during level 1 to get bonded.
My God.
And then you have to kill them because of something in the story. You betray them, and then they return later in the campaign to a level 17 creature, an incorporeal, undead, unholy spirit with a 39 AC. 39! Resistance to all damage, 12.
Yeah.
Double that resistance to any non-magical attack. So anything non-magical, any hit, you're taking 24 off before any damage gets through. Just amazing.
I love its reaction, Vengeful Spite. If you critically hit this Banshee, it gets to use its most powerful attack against you, and it just suddenly slams you with 4d10 plus 14 mental damage.
With a
can't
DC,
even enjoy. Yeah.
With a DC 38 basic will save.
Yeah. So you can't even enjoy critting against the Banshee. Because when you crit, it kicks your ass like as a reaction.
So what I was immediately drawn to was the whale. This is what I remember from the movie when I was a kid. And sure enough, there it is. Its ability, a 2-action ability called Whale. The Banshee unleashes a soul-chilling Wails of the Damned, which is an actual spell. This is
that does a lot of damage.
This is a rank 9 spell that it unleashes with a DC 38. The whale, I love this. The whale overcomes silence and similar effects of 5th rank or lower. So you could be under the effects of a 5th rank silence spell, and this Banshee can still burst right through it with Wails of the Damned. Wails of the Damned. I didn't have it ready here, but it is. It's a pretty phenomenal spell. These are the kind of things that I never see because we never play to this high of a level.
Right.
But yeah,
I wonder what inspired them to make this such a high level creature. When I think about a Banshee, I definitely default to like the level 4 or 5e kind of idea that it's a ghost with a sonic attack, and they've decided to make it a very powerful foe. I'm just a little surprised. I wonder what their thinking was on that. I don't dislike it. I kind of like seeing a creature like this powerful.
The Banshee can hear heartbeats within 60 feet of it as an imprecise sense. That's so freaking
That's cool.
That is
That's
so cool. Anyway, Howls of the Damned. This is a rank 9 spell from Player Core. You howl a lament of damned souls. Every living enemy in the area, and it's a 40-foot emanation. Every living enemy takes 8d10 void damage with a basic fortitude save. And if you fail it, you also become drained. Just sucks the life right out of you. Anyway, awesome creature.
It's awesome. Yeah, and that wailing or that screaming that Banshees do, that comes from keening. Are you familiar with keening?
Yes, but please go ahead, explain. I was reading about it. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Well, it's a type of like mourning that people in Ireland would do. It's a vocal lament for the dead. And people would kind of like do this scream singing when someone died, and they would keep it up. And I'm not going to attempt to do it because I will do it wrong. But this sort of scream singing as kind of a wailing mourning for the dead is where the Banshees kind of singing or screaming comes from.
I wonder if we'll ever play. Do you think we should ever just throw together like a one shot of level 17th level? Like,
here's my.
Would you ever be interested
pitch.
in doing that, or is that just insane?
My pitch, I would love to do that. My pitch is when I finish Blood of the Wild, I would like to do a AP that is like from 10th level up.
Oh, dude, that sounds like a great idea.
Now I don't know if we'd get the Banshee in there. Maybe we'd have to homebrew it. All Irish folklore. What part of Golarion is most like Ireland? That's where we'd have to go.
It's a good question. I mean, it's probably Varissia, probably the classic location, because it's on the ocean. It has the cliffs, the bluffs, the cold, windy mountains and stuff like that. I don't know. Maybe somebody else has a better idea.
Or maybe we just play a level 10 AP, level 10 and up AP.
Singing Zombies
incredible.
On Twitch says, from experience for PF2E, it is so hard to play a level 17 character cold. You have to remember the 100 things your character can do. Yeah, 100%.
That's a good point.
But it's not a bad idea to try to like start at level 10. And work your way up. But I think it's important to, if you start at level 10, you got to spend several hours like working Not just building the character, but reading and rereading all your abilities before you play your first session.
Maybe we take the characters from Blood of the Wild and we run them through Curtain Call, you know?
Yeah, that's what I said. I suggested that. I was like,
you said that.
Now they're like famous heroes if they live, and then they go and do that. Yeah, anyway, could be fun.
Could be fun.
Let's keep it moving here, man. We're running short on time.
Yeah, let's keep it moving. Let's talk about the trailer for The Last of Us. There is a new season of The Last of Us coming, hailed as incredible. The first season, I watched it. I really did love it. Did you watch the first season of The Last of Us?
I did. It was my favorite television of the year, of that year.
Yeah, it really did.
2023.
Because when you tell me, I think it's 2023. When you tell me zombies are back, zombie apocalypse is happening, you know, my tendency is to roll my eyes because we've seen it so much.
No, thank you.
But The Last of Us does have a different take on it. The zombies are different, you know, biologically. But beyond that, there's also just a way the story is told. The Last of Us television show had an incredible mix, I would say, of action and pathos, where the relationships and the emotional state that they were going through was as important as the incredible action set pieces that they ran throughout the show. What did you think of the trailer?
I didn't watch it. I don't watch trailers. I don't watch trailers of anything I'm going to watch.
You hate trailers.
I'm not going to watch trailers of anything I'm going to watch.
You hate trailers on a show where we discuss trailers.
Here's exactly why. Well, I'll watch trailers of things that I don't know about. I mean, I'd watch a Daredevil trailer to the cows come home. Here's the thing.
Sure.
Here's how psycho I am. You and I could not be more opposed. I can't wait till we do a real hard debate segment on spoilers, because you and I could not be further apart on this spectrum. I am so irrationally opposed to spoilers that I'll explain. I didn't see the trailer, but in generating graphics for this show, I just looked at the cover art of the thing and was disappointed that I know the actress who is in season 2, because I love that actress and I would have been amazed to just see that unfold on screen and not know it ahead of time. But anyway, I'm half joking, but love that actress. I can't remember her name at the moment, but she is awesome. And I was like, well, how perfectly cast for more Last of Us. And so I don't know anything about season 2, but I did read something that said that there were some big reveals in the trailer, like major questions answered right in the trailer. Is that true, or is that like an over-exaggeration? Am I misreading the...
That felt like an exaggeration to me. Maybe it's because, you know, when we get into our spoiler discussion, I want to talk a lot about memory. The fact that I think we all assume that we remember everything, and I think that we actually really don't. But basically, for me, having watched season 1, watching the trailer, I didn't go, what? That happens? I was like, okay, yeah, it looks like more of The Last of Us with a couple different things going on. I don't know. It looks like time has... Oh, I don't want to spoil for you, Joe. Well, it looks like some time has passed.
And now when I saw... Caitlin Dever, thank you, Spitfire, is the actor that I was talking about. When I saw Caitlin Dever, I was like, oh, I had no idea there'd be a new actor, you know? And I was like, okay, so, you know, things are changing here. I get it. Time's passing. What? Also, is it just Last of Us 2? Like shot for shot? Like, is it?
I don't know. You know, I really did appreciate in season 1 how they integrated stuff from the game into the show. Like,
I mean, it's mostly the game.
Like, yeah, there's just one huge set piece where you're just like protecting Bella. Bella is the actor's name. I forget the name of the character, but just like firing at zombies that are coming at her, you know, from like a window. And that's in the show. And it was a great little piece in the show too.
So I'm not sure if that's exactly what they did with Last of Us 2. But yeah, I think the headline that I saw said something about...
I haven't played the games. I watched a YouTube playthrough of the first game years ago. But I do love the show. I wonder what should we take a call? See what the Naish thinks?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think nobody's really interested right now in talking about.
Okay, no problem.
If anybody had any opinions on the trailer, please raise your hand. We'll get you up here.
Yeah, I'll say in season 1, I loved an actress that I got to see at the very beginning. Anna Torv was in the first season. Anna Torv from Fringe. Are you a Fringe fan, Joe?
No, I never watched it.
Oh, Fringe is amazing. It's got Pacey from Dawson's Creek.
Well, now I know who you're talking
Denethor
about.
From Lord of the Rings.
Now,
you know who.
I know who you're talking about from The Last of Us, and she was awesome. And that whole. Oh, hey, we're almost exactly the same age. That whole scene. Not scene. I mean, it was multiple episodes. Like basically her whole arc, I guess I should say.
Yeah.
So good. What a good character. What an interesting, dynamic sort of relationship. It was just awesome.
She's a great actor, and Fringe is a great show. All right. Well, that's The Last of Us then. If you know.
Yeah. I think that we can just keep moving.
That's the last
we'll have more
of
of course. I mean, it's starting April 13th. I think it launches. So check back. Let's check back in Glass Cannon Radio in June. I mean, we'll talk about season 2 because I will be watching every episode of that when it comes out. I'm so excited.
I mean, and I've been catching up on Severance, Joe, so we can talk about that soon too.
Yes, that's going to be coming to an end pretty soon, and we'll have that on GCR. So make sure you're watching Severance. Get caught up on Severance because we're going to talk about it and spoil the living shit out of it on Glass Cannon Radio. So watch all you can.
Great. Well, then we're going to finish up today with a travel log,
a nerd travel log. So first of all, why were you traveling?
So right now, we're about to finish the tour, but I have been touring with my good friend, Kumail Nanjiani. He's an actor. A lot of people know him as an actor, but he and I started as stand-ups in Chicago 20 years ago. And so he and I have been on the road. I've been opening for him. We've been doing theaters all over the country. And just this last weekend, we did Madison, Wisconsin, and Minneapolis. So I have a bit of a little nerd travel guide for those two places.
Okay. All right. Go.
Okay. So in Madison, Wisconsin, I was right near the Capitol. And my move, any city I'm in, is to walk the city as much as I can. So the snow was coming down. I said, who cares? I'm going to take a walk. And I always find a destination, and it's always a bookstore or a gaming store. So in Madison, I went to both. I went to a bookstore called Lake City Books, right up by the Capitol. Don't recommend. Avoid Lake City Books.
Oh, dear. Okay. Why?
You know why? There's this phenomenon now of the bookstore that it has only new stuff and only the first thought, most popular, most known stuff. And I think it's for like, it's kind of like an airport bookstore, but it's in a storefront. And I think it's for like people who, they're not really book nerds. They're just kind of like looking like they've heard of like the most popular thing. They've heard of Fourth Wing and they're going in to get Fourth Wing, right? So don't go to Lake City Books. If you're listening and you own Lake City Books, shame on you. Your store sucks. And let me just add, fuck you.
Jesus.
Yeah, sorry. Then I went to a place called Gamers Library. I walked down State Street all the way to a place called Gamers Library. Gamers Library was a game store, mostly board games, but it was one of those game stores like that I run into all the time where like you can tell that it's mostly given over to tables to play Magic the Gathering. Like, again, it's like this place is
very
a place
common,
for
though.
Magic the Gathering tournaments.
Right.
It is not a place to really get deep into games. But while I was there, I did have to buy something.
When I walk into those places, Jared, I always think that they should just put up a sign that's like, if you're not into Magic the Gathering, please leave. Like,
yeah, it's the place. It's the place where they always have like a refrigerator full of Pepsis and Mountain Dews.
Yes,
because a game store that's like super into board games doesn't usually have that, but a Magic the Gathering tournament place always does. It did have a role playing game section. It was mostly 5e, as they often are. There was some Pathfinder. There was some Pathfinder 1e stuff. There was some Pathfinder AP stuff. I purchased Eberron, Rising from the Last War for D&D 5e.
Wow.
Are you familiar with Eberron at all?
Nope. I know the name, but I don't know any details about the setting. No.
It's a really cool campaign setting, and I thought if I ever run 5e again, I want to do something very different that's not pseudo-medieval. I want to do something urban with some science fiction elements, and that's kind of what Eberron gives you. It feels a little bit more like Final Fantasy than Lord of the Rings.
Now that you said that, I do remember hearing that, about that campaign setting. That looks cool. Do you?
And I wonder... Yeah, go ahead, sorry.
You think you'll run like a home game in Eberron?
I think I will. I think coming up here, my mom. Oh my God! I meant to say my wife.
Oh no!
My mommy. I mean my wife.
Oh God, Jared!
Wow. We just need to take a minute.
We just need to take.
Oh God! Wow, there's a lot going on. A lot going on hormonally for me right now. Coming up, my wife and my kids are out of town together, and I think I'm going to take one day and run a really long game. I want to try to run like 2 4-hour sessions in one day.
That would
and
be
I might
fun.
run Eberron for that. Who knows if I can find the players to do that? But
I just wanted to mention before you continued on that in chat, Con Air on DVD, great name, great chat name. Con Air on DVD said, "Unfortunately, you picked like the 2 worst places to visit. There are so many better bookstores and game stores here." So
I know that there are, Con Air, and I wanted to go to them, but remember, my limitation is that I'm walking. I'm not going to spend $78 on an Uber. I wanted to go to Noble Night Games. I wanted to go to a couple different places, but those are the places that I went to in Madison.
You wanted to put that money toward Eberron, not toward.
I wanted to put that
Uber.
money toward Eberron. Exactly. Listen, I want to know 2 things. One is at the Naish retreat, I've been pitching Troy that I run like an 8-hour game. I want to know if there's any interest in people for something like that, because if there's not, I won't do it. But if people are like, I would play one game all day one day, then I would like to run that for you.
Wow.
And then the
that
other
sounds
thing
amazing.
is here on Glass Cannon Radio, is there any interest in maybe a day where we talk about some of the campaign settings for Dungeons and Dragons? I know last time we brought up Dungeons and Dragons, people were like, what? No, why is it? But this is Pathfinder. And I get it. Listen, I'll be the first to say Pathfinder is a better game. Okay. Now everybody calm down and let's admit that the D&D brand has been a major part of our hobby for 30, 40 years. And that some of those campaign settings, I think it'd be fun to talk about Dark Sun one day, or Dragonlance, all of the Dragonlance novels, or Eberron. Just a thought. Let me know if you're interested, or if you are like a fundamentalist Muslim but for Pathfinder. A Shiite Pathfinder fan. Okay, so the next day we went to Minneapolis, where we performed at the Pantages Theater. And in Minneapolis, I knew that I had to go to a bookstore called Majors and Quinn. And Majors and Quinn is an incredible used bookstore. I did spend on the Uber to go to that. I went ahead and took a little Uber.
Love
Majors
a good
and
used bookstore.
Gigantic bookstore. Lots of great used stuff, some new stuff. But the thing I love the most, Joe, is when the staff gets those little cards and writes stuff about the books. Not just a staff pick shelf, but all of the shelves had little staff commentaries here and there.
Love it.
That's the shit. I love that.
Yeah.
Sometimes I buy the book because of one of those little cards where someone has taken the time to handwritten what they loved about a book.
Exactly what the only one I have for comparison to that is Powell's in Portland. That's Portland, right? Powell's Books, a famous bookstore there. They have those little cards all over the place. They seem kind of like almost randomly put. Like it's just because they say, "Oh, if you're looking for something like for fans of this, this is a really like flew under the radar, blah, blah, blah. You know, and I absolutely buy books because of those note cards. I mean,
yeah,
that's how I get those recommendations.
Yeah, and I found two great things at Majors and Quinn's. I got a 1970 paperback of Philip K. Dick's Our Friends from Frolics 8 with a beautiful painted cover, the kind of old style, like painted cover science fiction novels that I like to buy. It's a vintage copy. And then I also got a copy of a Japanese thriller novel called Out by Natsuo Kirino. So I'm really excited to dig into both of those very soon. Finally, in Minneapolis.
Hold on a second. The Japanese thriller novel. What is the setting for this? What is like the rough time frame?
I read the first 2 chapters, and all I can tell you, it's modern. It's a contemporary novel set in Japan, and all I can tell you right now, it is about 4 women who work the midnight shift at a factory making boxed lunches, and the job is very hard, and all 4 of them really need money. So what do you think is going to happen? There's going to be some kind of caper.
Yeah, that would be interesting.
A Japanese lady caper.
Japanese lady caper. I think that's also a good time to mention, because I saw some comments about it in chat, asking about book club, asking about Glass Cannon Radio book club. And of course, we look forward to the next book. We're still talking about it. It's going to happen soon. We're not going to go book to book to book to book necessarily in GCR book club because of things like this. We have other books we're reading. I'm actually reading a book right now that I can't wait to tell you all about. Pardon me. Once I can, because I'm reading it for an as yet unannounced show. So like, you know, that kind of thing is like, we got to read some other stuff, but as soon as we're ready to sit down and read the same thing together, we're going to let you guys know, and we'll all do it together on Glass Cannon Radio Book Club. So keep an eye out for it. It's coming back, but we just don't have anything yet.
Yeah, keep an eye out for it. But if you'd like to, go ahead and stop asking about it. We would be completely fine with you not asking about it.
No, come on.
Every day.
Everybody's excited. People are excited to read. Also, suggestions would be great. Any suggestions? Keep them coming.
Well, we're getting lots of suggestions, and I do love those. I do love those.
We'll probably pick from that list.
But we will say on the show what the book is when we are ready to announce it. And yeah, we're taking just a little break between book clubs so that it's not like constantly, we don't have constantly something on our table to do. So my final part of my travel log is in Minneapolis. I visited Paisley Park, which is the Graceland of Prince. It is to Elvis's Graceland. Yeah, it is Prince's estate, but not just his estate. It's the place where he worked and lived. So, among other things, 3 gigantic recording studios.
Wow.
And I mean, legendary artists in and out of those recording studios. You goddamn name it, they were there. Okay. Wow. I mean, REM, Stevie Wonder, you could keep going, but he
roughly how long ago did he create this living?
He created
space?
Paisley Park in the 80s.
Oh my God.
Because that's when he became famous. You know,
he got famous and right away built this place and lived and worked there the rest of his life.
That's right. And he spent a lot of time there. And this guy was, what I learned about Prince, and I've always loved Prince's music. I don't know that I'd say that I was any kind of fan, but I've always loved the music, but I'm not a fan who's gone through all the albums over and over. He was a genius, and he was prolific. And they say at one point when he was working there, he was recording 3 new songs a day that no one's ever heard. And he has an archive of thousands of songs in this estate that will never be heard, but you could release an album a week for like 100 years and you wouldn't cover it all.
Wow, that's amazing.
That's what they told us. They have the motorcycle. Oh, go ahead.
Can I tell you my Prince story real quick?
Yes, please.
Sure. So I am also not a big Prince fan. I just know the hits and they're good. You know, that was my relationship with Prince was always like, I like those songs. I kind of grew up listening to. They were always on the radio or whatever, and like they're good. I have nothing against them. And then I'm working as a talent agent, and one of my actors at the time is like, I'd love to take you, meaning like a group of like 6 of us agents and assistants, to Madison Square Garden for the Prince concert. And I was like, hell yeah, like free concert? I'm down.
Yeah, sure.
But like, I don't care about Prince, but like, I'll go to a free concert and he's a legend. So I'd be happy to see him. I was completely blown away by this guy.
Yeah.
Like I don't think that I've ever, and I've been to a decent amount of concerts, not a crazy amount, but I don't think that I've ever seen charisma like that on a stage. Like his ability to completely control an entire arena. And I mean, have them and it felt like everything was improvised. It felt like he was just doing everything, whatever he felt like in whatever moment. And it just like people were waiting on every single thing that he did, including me. I mean, I would just be screaming at the solos that he would do, or when he would decide to just like smash or throw a guitar away, or like, you know, call somebody up from the audience on stage to dance with him, or like, I mean, he was just so engaging, and he would be like, everybody be quiet. For a second, he would stop until like everybody was quiet. And then he would like start a song on a piano or something. I mean, just the mood for a whole arena. That's so many instruments. Impressive.
He could play so many instruments. He's one of these guys who sort of emerged into the world fully formed. Like he had his own style. He had his artistic integrity, and he was a rock star from the moment he debuted.
Absolute rock star.
He really never really wavered in keeping his integrity. You know, a lot of people talk about the time period where he changed his name to a symbol. And when they talk about when Prince changed his name to that symbol, they're like, what a kook. What a lunatic. So eccentric. What an excessive thing to do. But the reason he did that was called his emancipation period. His recording contract with Warner Brothers, they had copyrighted his name, Prince. And that is truly his God-given name. He really was named Prince. His father's stage name was Prince, and they named their son Prince. They had copyrighted his name. They owned all of his masters, and he wanted emancipation. So he decided to stop playing under that name that Warner Brothers had taken from him. And when that recording contract with Warner Brothers ran out, he became Prince again. So that's what that period's all about. But if you ever get a chance to go to Paisley Park, I really recommend it. I got to sit on a replica motorcycle from the Motorcycle of Purple Rain. I got to see his kitchen where he would serve pancakes to people after all-night parties. He was famous for serving pancakes all the time. And this is true. I learned little things like, did you know he could record what was happening in any room in the house?
Wow.
He could record audio of any room in the house. And the reason he did this is because the ideas were just coming to him all the time. And if he was in an upstairs bedroom and not down in his recording studio, he would go,
he would grab one of his 6 bedroom guitars.
That's right. Yeah, exactly.
That's just amazing. Chili
I got
on
to see
Discord,
his guitars. Yeah, go ahead,
Chili on Discord chat said, and I wholeheartedly agree with this, the best Super Bowl halftime ever. And I agree. That show was, I have not liked any Super Bowl halftime shows, basically. That one absolutely blew me away. It's just phenomenal.
Yeah. So if you get a chance, I recommend, if you're in Minneapolis, I recommend checking out Paisley Park. The only thing I'll say is it's a bit expensive. I did the VIP tour and it was over $100.
Wow.
So, it's not really kind of a free show, but
worth
you
it,
also,
it sounds like.
they put your cell phone in a case and lock it, and they don't let you take pictures.
That's great. I think that's the best because
I love that
it's
too.
so freeing. You can just actually be there and experience stuff instead of worrying about what should I capture here? What do I need to remember here? Just enjoy yourself. Enjoy the moment.
There are photo ops. They have their own picture taking machines that text it to you. So you will get your photo op. But I putting that phone in that little case, that was kind of an interesting part of it. So, and that is my travel log for Madison and Minneapolis. I am in Chicago this weekend. So maybe I'll come back. Chicago I lived in for 5 years. So maybe I'll come back with some some Nerd Rex for Chicago. I'm going to be there
That
a
would
couple
be awesome.
days.
Would love some Nerd Rex for Chicago. We got a great show on tap for next week. Brian Holland of Chaosium is going to join us on Glass Cannon Radio next week. We're going to do a whole special on Pendragon next week as our Pendragon re-airs come to an end after tonight. Tonight is part 3, a remaster of last year's 3-episode Pendragon that we did. But starting next Wednesday, March 19th, we're going to be airing new episodes, a continuing story of those characters we introduced a year ago. Skid, who's in chat right now, Skid, myself, Paula Deming, and Nora Ibrahim playing with Brian Holland, the marketing director at Chaosium, as GM. He's going to come on Glass Cannon Radio next week with us and talk all about Pendragon, among other things. Brian Holland is getting up, I believe, at 3 o'clock in the morning in order to be on that show with us because he's in Australia. And so he said, well, if I'm up anyway, I might as well hang out for a while and talk about some nerd stuff. So we're going to have a great show with him next week. You'll be able to call in, talk to Brian, give him your questions. That should be really awesome. And then, of course, we'll have some other great stuff to talk about as well. So
absolutely.
We look forward to seeing you all again next week. Thanks, everybody, for hanging out as always. Thanks for tuning in live. Thanks to those of you that subscribe and join us on Discord. I'm telling you, it means the world to us to be able to hang out with you and get your calls and get your takes and all this stuff. So let's keep it going.
We love you. Have my baby.
Pardon me. I'm losing my voice.
Naish.
Thanks, everybody. Have a good one, and we'll see you next week.
Bye.
Bye.